This is a matter of national security for every country that trades such a strategic resource with Russia today. Russia earns 5.4 billion euros equivalent as a result of all these loopholes and everything else.
І розширити експортний контроль, щоб охопити більше категорій товарів і послідовно застосовувати заходи для усунення таких лазів.
Hello and welcome to Ukraine in Flames, a special project by Ukraine Media Center and NGO Euro-Atlantic Force, and I'm your host, Myroslava Yaremkiv. A scandal erupted in Brussels this September surrounding a record increase in purchases of liquefied gas from Russia by the European Union. In the first half of 2023, the European Union actually became the largest buyer of LNG in the Russian Federation, purchasing more than half of its exports. Activists of the anti-corruption group Global Witness calculated. The European Commission admitted that they did indeed raise their LNG purchases from Russia. However, these volumes are significantly lower than the amounts of gas the European Union used to buy from Gazprom before the Russian full-scale invasion of Ukraine. In today's episode, we'll discuss a fresh set of sanctions, specifically targeting the Arctic LNG 2 project, and explore whether these measures can effectively curb the growth of Russian liquefied natural gas exports. If you want to learn more about this subject, please continue watching this video and subscribe to our channel so that you don't miss our videos in the future. Arctic LNG 2 is Russia's second major LNG export project after the Yamal LNG plant launched in 2017. Arctic LNG 2 envisages the construction of 3 liquefied natural gas production lines with a capacity of 6.6 million tons per year each. And the total capacity of the 3 lines will be 19.8 million tons of liquefied natural gas. However, in early November, the US State Department announced sanctions against this project, and with that decision, this effectively blocked European and Asian countries from buying gas from this supplier. More on that, please welcome Deputy Head of the Department of Minimization of Corruption Risks in the Sanctions Policy of the National Agency of Ukraine for the Prevention of Corruption, Ahia Zahrebelska.
Today, we can already say that the interaction with Arctic LNG 2, the purchase of liquefied gas within the framework of this project, does not comply with the sanctions legislation. This can entail penalties both for the project participants and those who will buy this gas. This is, of course, our optimistic view. We realize that there may be some exceptions, as it was the case with the exceptions related to certain countries in the sanctions coalition. But if they are, they will be spot, temporary, etc. We expect them to undermine Russia's plans of becoming an undisputed leader in the LNG market and significantly increasing the volume of its exported resource to 100 million from the beginning of 2024, when the project is launched. This is a very big and very ambitious project. It is a project in the Arctic, and the Arctic is a strategic region. I hope we won't see European companies in this project in the near future. We have seen official comments, for example, from the French side, that as of today they're still scrutinizing what's happening there. I hope that the American sanctions are only the beginning. We saw the resolution of the European Parliament on November 9th, where the European Parliament spoke quite clearly on the Arctic LNG 2 project. They demand to apply sanctions to the project as a whole and to liquefied gas in particular, as well as to transit through the territory of the European Union, and to individual facilities related to production and processing, and to the purchase of Russian liquefied gas. This doesn't happen because someone is engaged in populism or because Ukrainians are pressing the matter, although it is also important. I think everyone can see how much the export of liquefied natural gas from Russia has increased. Now it's bigger than it was before the full-scale invasion, and Russia is increasing its market share in this area. Wherever Russia appears with its natural resources, its money, its companies, Russian spies, Russian corruption, and Russian interference in the internal politics of these countries appear there too. An increasing Russian share of the global LNG market is not only a matter of Russia's war against Ukraine, and not only a matter of the billions of dollars that Russia earns from it. This is a matter of national security for every country that trades such a strategic resource with Russia today. The security services, intelligence, law enforcement agencies, parliamentarians and leaders of those countries must ask themselves a question and get an honest answer to it. Am I not putting the lives, health, and national security of my citizens, my country, at risk by continuing relations with Russia?
Over the past few months, Razom Withstand has been actively pushing for restrictions on Russian expansion in the Arctic and advocating for sanctions on the export of liquefied natural gas from Russia. Recognizing Moscow's reliance on energy as a driver for its aggression, they see targeting this project as a means for the US to hinder Russian expansion in the Arctic and curb the growth of Russian liquefied natural gas exports. More on their continuing efforts, let's hear Director of Razom Withstand, Svetlana Romanko.
The United States is aware of its political power. They can close many loopholes in the sanctions for which we continue to pay with the blood of our soldiers. And it is quite easy to do. It is necessary to find missing information. And we see that there is a political will. There is an understanding that Russia needs to be taught a lesson and removed from the top list of fossil fuel exporters. Therefore, Europe and the USA, as the leading political forces in the G7 countries, should immediately impose all the necessary sanctions and limit the cap price for oil very dramatically. In general, we are in favor of a complete ban on oil. Nothing worse will happen to the world than it did last April. Prices will not get worse. The world coped with the situation then, and it will cope with it now, given that there is a bigger reserve and a bigger safety margin. But actions must be timely. We have been waiting too long for decisive steps from these sides. Meanwhile, Russia is increasing both its exports and the money received for them. According to the colleagues from CREA, 25 million tons of crude oil, almost 1.5 million tons of liquefied gas, and 3 million tons of coal will leave the ports of Russia this week. We seem to have forgotten about coal, but we also have to deal with it, because it is exported despite the ban. Here are the exact figures. Russia earns 5.4 billion euros equivalent as a result of all these loopholes and everything else. That's enough money to fund a group like Wagnerites and their ilk for a very long time. I want to say that we count on the fact that the governments of the countries will hear us, and that's why we made a visit to Washington. My colleague Oleg will tell us more about his advocacy visit. We need more such visits. It is necessary to sanction not only direct lines, tankers, or transshipment, but also money recipients. That is, Gazprombank has not been sanctioned yet. This is a huge financial transshipment point that needs to be closed. Then it will be physically impossible to transfer money.
The EU should also take appropriate steps for the sake of peace in Europe and climate protection. Members of the European Parliament call for a ban on the transportation of oil and LNG exported from the Russian Federation through the EU, as well as the ban on the sale of Russian tankers and limiting insurance services for tankers if they are used to export Russian oil. Director of the Department of Economic Diplomacy of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine, Людмила Yenina, will comment on that.
9 листопада була ухвалена резолюція, в якій вимагається посилення контролю на рівні Європейського Союзу з дотриманням санкцій проти Росії, а також більших зусиль для обмеження можливостей Москви їх обходити. Крім цього, варто звернути увагу на те, що в резолюції Європарламенту висловлюється занепокоєння з приводу існуючих лазівок в санкційному режимі Євросоюзу проти Росії. Що варто підкреслити, чи на що звернути увагу? Дійсно, як вже було сказано вище, погоджуюся з думкою експертів, що це такий важливий сигнал, тому що Європарламент закликає до додаткових заходів для збільшення обсягів і посилення санкцій. Зокрема, ЄС і його державами-членами посилити і централізувати на рівні ЄС нагляд за виконанням санкцій і розробити конкретні механізми запобігати обходу санкційному і моніторингу, щоб обмежити можливості Росії саме в обході санкцій. Крім того, вони закликають держав-членів ретельно розслідувати дотримання компаніями експортних обмежень на підсанкційні товари і накладати відчутні штрафи відповідні. І розширити експортний контроль, щоб охопити більше категорій товарів і послідовно застосовувати заходи для усунення таких лазівок. Водночас, що варто сказати, що Європейська комісія, звичайно, сама резолюція Європейського парламенту практично нічого за собою поки що так якби не несе, тобто це просто політична воля і заклик, який є дуже важливим. Але Європейська комісія готується подати новий пакет санкцій проти Росії. Пропозиції будуть викладені 15 листопада, і вже про це повідомив Верховний представник Європейського Союзу. Так, він наголосив на тому, що має продовжитися підтримка Україні. І дійсно буде новий пакет міститиме розширення списків санкцій, нові експортні заборони, серед яких також будуть і діаманти. І за його словами, зокрема, зміни стосуватимуться і механізму обмеження цін на російську нафту для третіх країн. Але мусимо дочекатися.
You've been watching a special project by Ukraine Media Center and Euro-Atlantic course dedicated to the Russian-Ukrainian war, Ukraine in Flames. In the description under this video, you can find information on how you can help Ukraine fight Russian aggression. If you find our work useful, please like and share this video. Slava Ukraini!